This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
First, let me make it perfectly clear that my intent is not to place animals above the redemption of man. Jesus died on the cross for you and me, and we need redemption and salvation. Animals do not. Men were created with free will, and in contrast, animals were born with God-given instincts. The fall of man brought all of creation into corruption. We humans corrupted all of God's creation. I came to Jesus about 2 years ago, and although I'd been saved many times throughout my life, I never really took it seriously. My reasoning for getting saved was just in case, or what some people call fire insurance. However, I've always prayed and talked to God, but I never heard Him answer me before. I guess I never really took the time to listen, but when I look back on my life, I see that I have always been blessed, and that Jesus has always been with me. I was active in the church as a young child and loved to sing in the choir, especially the older hymns. I've always been an open-minded person, and I've always believed in God and Jesus. However, I just didn't believe that Jesus loved me. There's a saying that goes like this: you may believe in God, but you don't believe God. That described me, and like most people, I thought I was going to heaven because I was a good person. I didn't realize that I was a sinner and needed salvation. And I always thought that Jesus helped everyone else, but not me. All my life, I thought I was on my own. After being saved, something happened to me, and I got filled with the Spirit and received my first vision in church, and I have had many visions since then. I used to ask men questions about the Bible. Now, I ask Jesus. I began to pray earnestly to God, and He began to talk to me. I prayed every day. I prayed to Jesus the first thing upon waking. I prayed all during the day, and it was the last thing I did before going to bed. All my life I've heard people ask and wonder, what happens to their pets when they die? And so did I. Let's examine how close animals are to God and how much He loves them. Many people just read over this next verse, and they fail to see how much God loves all of His creation, simply because people are only interested in His love for them. In Matthew chapter 10, verse 29, it says, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a farthing, and one of them shall not fall to the ground without your Father?" You see, a sparrow does not die without God being there beside him, just as He is for us. This verse tells us that God is there to receive the spirit of that sparrow with open arms at the instant of death. And of course, this verse is not only showing us how much He loves His animals, but that He loves us even more, in a different way. I love my pets dearly, but I also love my family. Can I not love them all? Well, of course I can. And if I tell my sons that I love my dog with all my heart, then think how much more I love my sons. This is what God is telling us. The fact is that when a sparrow dies, it falls to the ground, and so therefore we know from the words in that verse that Jesus is talking about the death of a bird. He is telling us that even a bird doesn't die without Jesus being right there to take that spirit of that bird to heaven. And if you notice, Jesus says, not one will fall without God being there. This verse definitely tells us that He is there for every bird and every creature. His eyes were clear and shiny, just like the eyes of Jesus. And BJ had what looked like a holy haircut. His fur looked electrified. And as I stared at his fur, I realized that his fur was alive. His fur was alive, and I could see knowledge in BJ's eyes that I knew far surpassed my own. I could feel it. Do animals go to heaven? Many people have asked this question throughout the ages, but yet none have really taken the time to ask Jesus. King Solomon asked this question, but only to himself. He mused to himself in Ecclesiastes, where do the spirits of animals go? Do they go to heaven, or do they just die and turn to dust and go into the earth, and that's the end of them? Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verses 18 to 21 reads, I said in mine heart concerning the estate of the sons of men, that God might manifest them, and that they might see that they themselves are beasts. For that which befalleth the sons of men befalleth beasts. Even one thing befalleth them. As the one dieth, so dieth the other. Yea, they have all one breath, so that a man hath no preeminence above a beast. For all is vanity. All go to one place. All are of dust, and all turn to dust again. Who knoweth the spirit of man that goeth upward, and the spirit of the beast that goeth downward to the earth?